8 Ways Through the Mortal World. Xiafeng. June 21, 2010. Translated by Treasure and edited by Kayer. Our universe consists of 20 parallel worlds within 36-dimensional space. Among these 20, our mortal world is designated as the XY world and manifests itself as 3-dimensional space. The 20 parallel worlds all have symmetry, as does all of 36-dimensional space. From the perspective of reincarnation and the evolution of life, there are high-level spaces such as the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world, and low-level space such as the inflamed layer, the frozen layer, and the netherworld. The mortal world is the midpoint at which they cross. It is a transfer station for the evolution and reincarnation of life between the higher-level spaces and the lower-level ones. This means that lives from low-level spaces advancing to high-level ones and those from high-level spaces falling to low-level ones must pass through this mortal world as a transfer station. The mortal world is a traffic hub just like the Zhengzhou railway station in China, where crowds come and go, back and forth, hustling and bustling each and every day, determinately and actively. It is easy to see that apart from those who work there, they all scatter quickly to their separate directions and transfer to other cars, buses, trains, and airplanes toward their individual destinations, running along their ways busily. In the mortal world, chaos arises with constant fighting and struggling. Each holds their own ambition, each has their own axe to grind, each administers in their own way, and each realizes their own wishes. As a temporary stage, each team performs its own show to the maximum, and as a temporary inn, passengers from different places stay briefly before parting company and going their separate ways. Each pursues their own prospects. To pursue one's prospect of reaching their destination, they must proceed in certain ways. Without a good way or by choosing a wrong one, they will never reach their destination. Were they to board the wrong vehicle, their wish would remain just a wish, and their destination would remain out of reach. To be an entrepreneur, one needs to take the way of the market. To do business and make money, they must take the way of circulation. And to be a doctor, they must take the way of medical science and skill. Airplanes must taxi down runways, ships have to float on waterways, trains should run on railway tracks, and cars need to remain on roads and streets. From the perspective of the evolution and reincarnation of life, humans in the mortal world must take one of the following 8 ways and pass on to its associated destination. The way of the greatest creator. One models themselves after nature with holographic order thinking, open-heartedness, flexibility, and tact. They will rise to the celestial islands continent. The way of gods. One worships gods quite distinct from each other, bellicose and domineering. They will advance to Azura heaven. The way of Buddha. One pursues non-form and refines their concept of no abode for the mind and returns to the nature of Tathagata. They will ascend to the Elysium world. The way of celestial beings. One takes skepticism, non-dogma, and freedom as their first priorities and cultivates magical powers as their core. They will climb to the celestial beings' world. The way of humans. One pursues fame and material wealth, attaches great importance to family love and emotions, and remains fond of organization and power. They will return to the mortal world to continue their samsara and return as another human. The way of animals. One takes food, clothing, shelter, transportation, growing up, aging, health, and avoiding death as their first priorities of life, with the acquisition of money as their core value. They will descend to the animal world. The way of ghosts. One neither abides by rules nor laws, but conjures, lurks, and sneaks around like a ghost, speaks one way, but thinks and acts another, and is fond of hiding and good at lying. They will drop into the hell world. The way of Satan. One is fond of dwelling upon spirits and deities, fortunes and disasters, being ambitious and arrogant, blasphemes the greatest creator, and insults the gods. In order to achieve their goals, they plunge lives into abysses of misery and destroy nature by hook or by crook. They will fall into the inflamed layer or the frozen layer. Like Atrax, birds of a feather flock together. The way that one takes depends upon their kind of consciousness and their life structure. Divine punishments are slow but sure, is also the arrangement and program of Tao. All have their duties and accountabilities, which make each and every one of them vivid and exciting. Whether they know it or not, each person takes their way. Most are led along ignorantly and uncaringly, but a small number choose theirs clearly and plainly. You who have read this article should consider using it as a reference. If you discard what I wrote as groundless nonsense, then simply throw it away. You can even scold and criticize me, but if you feel that it has merit, then consider it as having value because you could benefit from it. Possess nothing yet have everything. Xie Feng. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Possess nothing yet have everything. This is not a paradox, but a great secret with which to go toward a better life space. Jesus Christ taught us to lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. It is only by owning nothing on earth that you can enter the realm of the greatest creator. Shakyamuni Buddha taught us to develop a pure and clean mind which does not abide in anything, neither in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, nor dharma. We should have no notion of ego, personality, a being with a life, dharma, or non-dharma. Everything with form is unreal. All phenomena are dreams, illusions. In other words, owning nothing is the way to enter the Elysium world. The immortal Lao Tzu taught us to take no action, regard one's body as accidental, do not contend, value the world as itself. It gives them birth but does not own them, acts, helps, but does not appropriate them. He who acts, spoils. He who grasps, lets slip, accomplish but lay claim to no credit. All this is to say that we must not take credit for our positive actions. To put all this into one sentence, all the teachings of gods, Buddha, and immortal are to try to own nothing. Stupid? No. The teachings of gods, Buddha, and immortal are the Tao of life, the Tao of light, and the Tao for us to gain everything. How can possessing nothing lead to having everything? The Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, taught us, to any that desires the tilth of hereafter, we give increase in his tilth, and to any that desires the tilth of this life, we grant somewhat thereof, but he has no share or lot in the hereafter. The Prophet's prediction was right. You have already had your share, and you will not have any share or lot in the hereafter. So just give and you will have more later. The less you possess now, the more you will have later. We have learned from the Taiji thinking that the sum of positive and negative energy is always zero. If you gain in some ways, you will lose in others. This is to maintain the law that positive and negative energy are always in balance. The more blessings you enjoy in this world, the fewer your blessings will be in the afterlife. So, if you want to enjoy a better afterlife, you will need to give more and possess less in this life. Follow the teachings of Buddha. Do more formless almsgiving because doing so will get you enormous and incredible blessings. We see people with lots of possessions, which is mainly because they have gained a lot merits in their previous lives. Many others are poor, mainly because they have done little or garnered few merits in their previous lives. Some people were born with silver spoons, yet many work hard all their lives, but can barely support their families. Evidently, if you want to get blessings in your afterlife, you should earn more merits in this life. If you want to be a celestial being in heaven in your afterlife, you need to possess as little as possible in this life. How can you possess nothing yet have everything? Firstly, think about this. Whatever we try to possess in this world will come to naught in the end. If we make efforts to possess, we are really running after illusions and bubbles. The more you possess, the more distress, troubles, crises, and disasters you will have. You will never rest peacefully, you will feel unsettled, you will literally rack your brain to keep your possessions, you will lie, contend, hurt others, hurt nature, and will cause others to envy, hate, covet, and rob. Your life quality will get farther and farther away from heaven and nearer to the animal world and hell. The more you possess, the farther away from heaven you will be. If you want to possess everything, you will eventually have nothing. Let us look at the birds flying and perching in the forest. What do they possess? They possess nothing, but they have the sunlight, forests, meadows, streams, bugs, and branches to perch upon. They lack nothing. The Gospel of Matthew reads, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin." Jesus had nothing in his life, but now he has everything. Buddha had nothing after the Enlightenment, but now he has the Elysium world. The celestial beings in the 1,000-year world and the 10,000-year world possess nothing, but they lack of nothing. The super-celestial beings in the Celestial Islands continent possess nothing, but they have everything they could ever want. As long as people in the mortal world give more but possess nothing, they will be short of nothing. Why do people have so much anxiety and worries, and why do they compete and contend all day long? Because they want to possess. As we travel, we see that many attractions have been possessed by people. We need to buy tickets or we will be kept out of the show. The landscape of the earth and the sun and rain are the gifts of nature for all mankind. But now they are possessed by a small group of people and everyone else must bear their exploitation and blackmail. I built this road and planted this tree. If you want to pass by, then pay my toll and buy the privilege. How can anyone not worry and suffer anxiety in this gangster-ridden world? Water is a gift of nature bestowed to all life, but if we want to use water, we must pay for it. We are told that water needs to be purified and that costs money. But we should ask who polluted the water. The people who polluted the water should be responsible for its purification. Why should others bear the cost of purifying it? We are told that the water was in rivers and lakes, but now it comes directly to our sinks in our homes and that costs money. Yes, bringing water from rivers and lakes for our convenience does indeed cost, but that cost should be resolved by voluntary labor under government organization and the materials should be provided by the production plant. And it is said that if we do not charge for water, people will waste this resource. Yes, this could be a problem, but why would people want to waste for no reason? This is a mental and spiritual problem. Why not just solve them? This belongs to the country. This belongs to our company. This belongs to my family. This belongs to me. In these cases, the public resources will be seized. One day, the mountains, rivers, and the earth will be carved up, and even the air we breathe will be sold and taxed. Everyone wants to possess, but the result will be that everyone will suffer and be lacking in everything. It is only when no one possesses that everyone will have everything. First of all, without traditional families, 80% of social issues would be resolved. Secondly, without countries, 90% of our problems would be resolved. The remaining 10% will be problems of spirit and soul construction. Is this possible? Unlikely, of course, because this is the mortal world, not heaven. However, it is imperial for anyone who wants to go to and live in heaven. If you want to possess something, you will never reach heaven. The consciousness of possessing is our biggest obstacle preventing us from going to heaven. All those who want to go to heaven must clearly recognize this point and realize a consciousness of owning nothing and putting this consciousness into practice. The new oasis for life built by Life Changyuan serves this purpose. Those who enter the new oasis for life possess nothing, but they can get everything. To people who are not Changyuan celestials, this ideal sounds like the Arabian Nights. It is just a myth, a dream, a fantasy, and a delusion. But to Changyuan celestials, it is no longer an unattainable dream, but rather a clear reality. If you want to live a better life on earth and ultimately go to heaven, the only way out is to live according to Life Changyuan values. In this way, you will possess nothing yet have everything. Brains, minds, consciousnesses, and the great universe. Xiafeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Brains are the bridges between consciousnesses, minds, and the great universe. The great universe that is seen, heard, smelled, tasted, and felt is processed by brains into minds. Brains would die without the great universe. Brains can be activated by observing and experiencing the great universe, and they will become quicker and smarter thusly. That is why we have the saying, read 1,000 of books and travel 1,000 miles. Apart from interpreting sensations, the brain is also capable of thinking. The closer we look, the deeper we feel about the things and phenomena that we sense, the more developed our brains become, and the more powerful our minds become. Our minds are determined by the information and data provided to our brains which come from the great universe. That is to say, the great universe that a person experiences determines the person's mind, which is why there are wolf children and deer children, as well as the origin of the belief that the Bel-Esprits reside on green mountains with sparkling water while rogues live on barren hills with turbulent rivers, and the reason to keep the company of good people and you shall be counted among their numbers. From this, we can draw the conclusion that the environment creates human minds. Different environments create different life. The environments of animals bring up animals. The human environment brings up people. The environment of celestial beings brings up celestial beings. The environment of Buddha brings up Buddhas. This environment, known as the Great Universe, includes both the material world environment and the non-material world environment, the reality environment and the super-reality environment. The reality material environment is the great universe that we see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. The super-reality non-material world includes the great universe written in books, sent to computers and TV screens, dreamed by our subconscious minds, and imagined in our minds. Always remember that you can know the principles and ways to have a sublime life, but you must live in the corresponding environment of life level in order to achieve the life in which you desire to be. Those who are surrounded by animals and animals' environment are animals. Those who are surrounded by people and people's environment are people. Those who are surrounded by celestial beings and celestial's environment are celestial beings. Those who are surrounded by Buddha and Buddha's environment are Buddha. Those who are surrounded by gods and God's environment are gods. People who live with people in the human world for a long time cannot become celestial beings or attain Buddhahood. If one wants to go there, they must live in environments that possess those attributes. Live in their worlds. The new oasis for life created by Life Changyuan is the environment of celestial beings where celestial beings live. So, if you want to become a celestial being, you must live in the new oasis for life. A brain cannot exist independently, but a mind can. A brain is restrained by the material world, but a mind is not. A brain is material, but a mind is non-material. People carry the genes of consciousness information from many previous lives. The good and bad of the root of wisdom rely on the consciousness of their genetic information. That is the origin of the so-called genius. Generally speaking, people who have never lived in heaven in any of their previous lives cannot become a celestial being or attain Buddhahood, and will have to go through the same difficulty as someone who wants to become a singer but has a rough, untuned voice. Genius is not cultivated, but is innate. The so-called innate means that they have acquired certain qualities throughout many previous lives. The so-called life is the soul, and the so-called soul is consciousness. Consciousness determines the nature and level of life. Therefore, a brain is a channel for information from the great universe to enter a mind. A brain is dead without the great universe and cannot survive without it. Minds are independent and can exist even without the great universe. The great universe can be created by a mind. The great universe plays a decisive role in the formation of minds. In order to attain the mind of a celestial being or to attain Buddhahood, one must associate with celestial beings and Buddhas and live in their world.
我阻挡住了前往天堂的道路。
It is ego that blocks our way to heaven. Xie Feng. March 4, 2013. Translated by Treasure and edited by Kayer. If everything works according to the greatest creator's will, so let everything return to nature and follow the law of nature as the way of permaculture agriculture. Then the wind and rain will come in their time and everything will harmonize with each other. people will lead carefree lives and enjoy their years of life, it will be realized that we are integral parts of nature and everyone will enjoy peace and health. Harm and pain are created by people with egos. One is bound to be selfish with an ego, and selfishness is bound to bring harm and pain to others, society, and nature. In return, that harm and pain will reflect back upon themselves. This will lead to vicious cycles and eventual destruction. The teachings of gods are that by abandoning the ego, one will receive life and peace. The teachings of the Buddha are that by being free of ego, form, and worry, one can enter the Elysium world. The teachings of celestial beings are to take things as they are, associate with others by following predestined relationships, act in accordance with nature, and take advantage of opportunities as they arise. Follow your own nature and be unrestrained. Follow your destiny and be carefree. The teachings of saints are to lack the hearts of egos, but to take the hearts of the world as their own. The core of their teachings is but one: be free from ego. Being free from ego, one can enjoy the pleasures of life and enter paradise, the pure land, the fairyland. Facts speak louder than words. People living in the new oasis for life are more joyous, freer, and happier than those living in traditional marriages and families. Why? Because people living in the new oasis for life are freer from ego and more selfless than those living in traditional marriages and families. In the new oasis for life, the freer you are from ego, the more happiness, freedom, and joy you can have. The more that you serve your ego, the less happy, free, and joyous you will be. Facts have proven that in order to lead a happy and nice life and enter paradise step by step, the freer one is from their ego, the better they are. So how can we free ourselves from our egos? Live according to the will of the greatest creator. That is the law of nature. Live by following the teachings of Jesus Christ, Buddha Sakyamuni, and the immortal Lao Tzu. Abandon your ego but integrate into the collective and into nature. Desire nothing but take things as they are. Drink as you thirst, eat as you hunger, and sleep as you tire. Associate with everyone by following predestined relationships and acting in accordance with your nature. Own nothing or no one until you have nothing at all. Neither interfere with others, nor try to control or change them. Be yourself with your original nature. Neither analyze and judge right and wrong, nor judge others' advantages, disadvantages, and qualities. Seek out those who own nothing with selfless consideration and always remain humble and look like both saints and servants because it is correct to listen to them. Ego is the precipice and the stumbling block that prevents people from reaching heaven. Ego is the root of all trouble, pain, and misfortune. Ego will inevitably lead a person to a lower space of life. Only selflessness helps one realize their self. Only freedom from ego helps one achieve their self. These two messages encompass all the secrets of brilliant lives and the principles of life sublimation. Think of them carefully and practice them bravely.
超弦理论的盲点
A blind spot in superstring theory. Xiafeng. October 24, 2005. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. If we consider the quantum field theory as one leg in a pair of pants and the general relativity theory as the other leg, then the superstring theory would be the waist part trying to connect them. Einstein's general relativity mainly discusses gravity and holds that it does not exist but is the result of the curvature of space. It assumes that space itself is smooth and flat, but when celestial bodies of great mass such as the sun appear, they cause it to curve inward. It is like pressing hard on a girl's round and smooth face with an index finger which breaks the smoothness and forms an indentation. The geometric deformation of space gives rise to apparent gravity which defines it from a macro perspective. With regard to a person or a stone, its mass is too small to deform space any noticeable amount, Thus, microscopic matter has almost no apparent gravity. The problem with microcosmic matter is that its space is not smooth and flat, but is filled with countless, flying particles which are unable to curve space to produce gravity as huge masses do. The movements of microparticles have nothing to do with gravity. They are the results of electromagnetism, the strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force. Quantum mechanics appeared when general relativity failed to explain the source of these three forces. Quantum mechanics studies fundamental particles at the microcosmic level. Whether large celestial bodies or grains of sand on the beach, all matter is made of hundreds of types of fundamental particles with masses close to zero but whose trajectories change unpredictably with no rules to follow but are always in motion. Motion is not caused by gravity, but by the three aforementioned forces of nature being converted from the particles. Electromagnetism is converted from photons, the strong force is converted from gluons, and the weak force is converted from bosons. However, the conversion of particles cannot generate gravity. Therefore, the quantum mechanics does not explain gravity. The macroscopic world and the microscopic world are unified integral, but general relativity theory, which can explain motion at the macroscopic level, and quantum mechanics, which can explain it at the microscopic level, are not fully compatible. An overall description of the universe can only be had by combining these two seemingly contradictory theories, and this mosaic theory is called the superstring theory. This superstring theory believes that matter is made of molecules, molecules are made of atoms, atoms are made of electron shells and nuclei, and the nuclei consist of protons and neutrons which are made of quarks. What are quarks and electrons made of? Scientists believe that both are fundamental point particles which have no internal structures and cannot be divided any further. Superstring argues that these particles do not really exist, but are only strings in motion in space, and a variety of different types of particles are formed by these strings vibrating differently. All interactions between matter and energy can be explained by combining and separating strings, but strings do not move in normal three-dimensional space. Rather, they move in a high dimension of space which is beyond our imagination. Our traditional ideas about space are wrong because space has more than 3 dimensions, maybe 10 or even 26 of them. If this sounds confusing, consider the following scenario. An ant crawls into a shallow pit. It climbs out and goes further until it falls into a deeper pit. It climbs out and continues to go until after some time, it drops into a sand pit. It climbs out, but eventually lands inside a mud pit. These 4 pits are totally irrelevant to the ant which simply comes across them by chance. Living on a 2-dimensional plane, it cannot see the interrelation of the 4 pits, let alone know that they may be related integrally. What is the reality of the situation? These 4 pits are footprints left by an elephant as it ate. 1 foot stood on hard ground, another stood on soft ground, a third in sand, and the 4th was in a pond of rainwater. So there are the shallow pit, the deep pit, the sand pit, and the mud pit. That is to say, the seemingly unrelated pits are actually integral parts of a whole. It is only when we think beyond our 2-dimensional plane to include 3-dimensional height, 4-dimensional time, 5-dimensional retention information, and 6-dimensional space movement and so on, that we begin to understand how these unrelated pits are integral parts left by a single elephant. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong force, and the weak force are our 4 pits, but they are actually parts of a whole. Superstring theory was conceived to explain their integration. Superstring is the most promising theory to unify our understanding of fundamental particles with the interactions of the 4 forces. Superstring holds that strings are the most basic units of matter and that all fundamental particles such as electrons, photons, neutrinos, and quarks are different vibrational states of energy strings. Superstring combines the 2 major basic theories of the 20th century, general relativity and quantum mechanics, for the first time into a mathematically self-consistent framework. Superstring has the potential to solve long-standing problems that have troubled physicists, including the nature of black holes and the origin of the universe. If experimentation confirms it, then our understanding of the structure of matter, space, and time would change fundamentally. The prospect is tempting and theoreticians are struggling with it, but it seems ridiculous and childish to me because of some major blind spots. They are: how have these strings come into being? How do they move? Could they represent the origin of the universe? How can a unified field theory of the universe be established when the origin of the universe is still unknown? Only Life-Chanuan can answer these questions.
寻找真正的自己。一、
Looking for your true self, Xie Feng. August 5, 2012. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Who are you and how much of your life do you control? All of it, some of it, any of it. Needless to say, no one can control their lives absolutely. If a person can control just 1/10 of their habits, hobbies, behaviors, and words, then they are quite extraordinary. 18 things are beyond people's control, including their height, appearance, race, ethnicity, environment, era, birth date, birthplace, parents, death, and so on. All these things are predestined and no one can do anything about any of them. But what about our habits, usual practices, hobbies, behaviors, words, and so on? Are these self-controllable? Let us look at 2 specific examples. As reported in the world of unsolved secrets, a pair of paternal twin brothers were separated from an early age in Ohio, the United States. They meet again after being separated for 39 years, only to discover that they both had received legal education and were keen on mechanical drawing and carpentry. Even more surprisingly, their ex-wives had the same first names, as did their sons and even their second wives. In addition, both of them vacationed often in St. Petersburg, Florida. A pair of paternal twin sisters had been separated since childhood for more than 10 years. They agreed to meet at a train station and one sister temporarily decided to get a hairdo. When they met, she was taken aback, because her sister had also gotten a hairdo. They also wore identical jackets, skirts, shoes, and carried identical purses. Both of them were utterly amazed. We can draw conclusions about these. Both pairs of siblings had almost identical habits, hobbies, behavior, and appearances, though they had been separated from early ages. When they did not know that they had twins, everything about them was taken as individual preferences. They had all believed that they controlled their own habits and hobbies until they found that their twins were almost exactly the same. Everything that they believed to be self-determined turned out to be from invisible consciousnesses rather than their own wills. The habits, hobbies, even the names of their wives and sons had been prearranged and predestined. These cases represent identical twins, but what about the rest of us? What habits and hobbies do we choose for ourselves? The answer is none. Our habits, practices, hobbies, interests, behaviors, and choice of words are not our own decisions, but controlled by mysterious consciousnesses. What are these mysterious consciousnesses? They are our true selves. The selves that we believe we are not our true selves but false ones, and our true ones are the mysterious consciousnesses that control our hidden ones behind our appearances. Case in point, a woman's husband was killed in a war. When the bad news came, she grieved and wailed sadly, but her true self cried with joy, "Finally, I'm free." 9 people out of 10 are pretentious. So most of the people we face are false, do not talk sincerely, and are hypocrites. We often face cognitive dissonance when our true selves conflict with our false ones. Our false selves tend to be pretentious, to cater to the times, the public, and others. Our true selves have nothing to do with them, and that is Tathagata. How does one find their true self? Continue to looking for your true self. 2.
寻找真正的自己。2.
Looking for your true self. 2.